All right, welcome back to the Top Step. We're inside the EQC studios, and I have a very special guest. He is a Mariners legend. He's played with 8 different teams, but I feel like there is that connection to Seattle. It is none other than Mike Cameron. Mike, how you doing, buddy?
What's up, Rhino? How you doing, brother? Great day,
I'm
Mike.
doing great.
Great day.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. There's a Australian coming out. I know you have been there. You did tell me before we came on. So I've got a little contest later on in the show that I'm gonna hit you up and see how well you go. But hey, listen, you play for 8 different teams, but you are still very much connected to the Seattle Mariners, obviously from a coaching side, but from the fan standpoint, I get DMs all the time. I told you before I came on, hey, can you have Mike Cameron on the show? And I was like, oh, for sure, I'd love to. As a matter of fact, you hit me up on Twitter. And I was like, oh, perfect, sweet. I don't have to be awkward asking him. So I appreciate it. But Mike, I want to ask you this. What is it with all the 8 teams you've been with that you've got that connection to the Seattle Mariners first of all?
First and foremost, I was here for the longest. I kind of felt like the span that I was here kind of etched my foundation, in my baseball career. Also, getting traded for Griffey was very much so included in that. With all the mental skill helps these guys have now, I didn't have any of that when I first got to Seattle. I had to
Right.
figure it out, but luckily I had played a few years by the time I got here. We're kind of just really establishing myself by the time I got to Seattle, and here I am having to um, try to understand the establishment behind
Right.
one of the top 50 greatest players coming into Seattle and understanding that this man was at the height of his career in his prime in Ken Griffey Jr. And me coming here is just like, okay, I've had some success in the big leagues already, so I kind of understand what I am as a player,
Yeah.
and that's about all I can do. But psychologically, that didn't really happen in that matter because you're still trying to compete and play well, for the fans in Seattle. And fortunately for me, I was in a good organization at the time with Pat Gillick running uh, the ball club and Lou Piniella at the helm,
Right.
and still having A-Rod and Edgar Martinez on the team as superstars, and Jay Buhner, obviously.
You, yeah. See, that's what they obviously they know you were traded for Ken Griffey Jr., right? But it wasn't like this. You see these trades all the time where, like, this superstar, and you said in the midst of his career in Seattle, and everyone, me as a kid, I knew Seattle Mariners, I knew Ken Griffey Jr., right? But like you're already an established big leaguer, so there was that pressure of like, all right, you're taking his spot essentially, on the field. Did you feel that pressure when you first got to the Mariners?
Oh, most definitely. Toronto, I got traded on February 10th of 2000. We're talking like 4 or 5 days before spring training. I was getting ready to drive
Oh
down
man.
to Sarasota, Florida for arbitration. And, my name was kind of mentioned a little bit, but a lot more so from Cincinnati was Pokey Reese, being the feature piece, I guess.
Yeah.
But, it ended up being me. And holy hell, it was like a whirlwind. Everything transformed. I just had, my son was at the time he was 3, and I just had my
Man.
daughter back in August, so of '99. So like I had 2 kids, and just a budding big leaguer who've had some success. I had finished 5th in Rookie of the Year, struggled my second season, came back and had a 2035 season in Cincinnati on a great team. A lot of young players with Aaron Boone, Barry Larkin,
Right.
Pokey Reese, Sean Casey, Dimitri Young, Jeffrey Hammonds, Greg Vaughn. So we had a great young
Yeah.
nucleus when I was in Cincinnati, and only to get traded to
Right.
Seattle. And so I had to reassess myself.
You see, and again, you mentioned the timing of it too. Was there like a good, again, not that you were expecting it was going to be you, but was like, were people talking? Because now, now the generation now, they kind of have this, like they know it before it kind of happens, right? Everyone like leaks
Yeah.
everything. But back then, like, were you like shocked that day, or did you kind of have a feeling something was going to go on? Or actually, when you were paying attention to Griffey,
Yeah.
was there a lot of talks leading into that time? Yeah, because I don't know. I mean, I'm sure everyone in Seattle probably remembers in that generation, but Was there a big lead up to him getting traded? Was it talked about for forever before it happened, or was it something where obviously on your end you must have been so shocked, right, when it happened when it was you basically the one getting traded?
Yeah, so in '99, I think when Seattle, when they just moved into the new stadium in July, I don't think they were able to sign Griffey. So, that led to some speculations of him possibly moving on at that particular point.
Yeah. Right.
Although we know that's the house that Griffey built. At the time, it was Safeco Field, which is now T-Mobile. But um, I there were talks of Griffey talking about maybe playing. His dad was one of my coaches, so
Yeah.
so obviously he's from Cincinnati, and we had just won 96 games, and we lost in a one game playoff to the New York Mets that year. So
Right.
obviously the team was there, and uh,
Yeah.
e- everyone was talking about Poker Reese, but Poker Reese plays second base. I'm the only guy that plays center field. So when
Yeah.
they were bringing
Right.
this up, and obviously Jim Bowden, he didn't do much tampering, but there was a lot of tampering, I guess, as far
Right.
as that concerned. And Griffey had all control, and obviously him wanting to go home, which is very special for
Yeah.
him and his family. So I mean, I was happy for him, but it was I felt like it was a nightmare for me, but it was just another great opportunity. Um,
Yeah,
you
man.
know,
You're saying it was at the time it was a nightmare, right? And then all of a sudden, instead of, I mean, you said you were driving down to Florida from where you were at.
I was about
I'm guessing
I was
doing
headed.
arbitrate. Like you kind of had that, like it was that that routine you used to arbitration year. You're going to make some money, everything else, and then boom, you're on a plane out to essentially the West Coast out to Arizona
Yeah,
for spring training.
yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you got fans probably like hating the fact that who are you compared to
Yeah,
Griffey,
oh,
even though you're putting
heck
up some good
yes.
numbers.
Heck yes.
Oh man,
I took it as much as it was hard to um digest all of it, Ryan. I took it as like, okay, hey man, I can play this like I can play this game, like I ain't no
yeah,
scrub. I'm just kind of like I'm
right,
not at I'm not a 50 homer bat or a 45 homer bat or whatever it is, but I can do some things
right,
in this game. I've shown that I can do some things, and
yeah,
it was just a matter that me getting a chance to get comfortable. Obviously playing in that
yeah,
ballpark, it was tough. I mean, but other than that, like I said, I had A-Rod, I had Griffey.
yeah,
I mean, I had Edgar, I had
right,
Olerud, I had also had Edgar Martinez, and then Lou Piniella. The first thing that Lou Piniella did was one thing I will say, you know, because my experience with Lou Piniella when I played with the Chicago White Sox was them always kicking coolers, cussing out pitchers,
yeah,
everything, playing in the kingdom or whatever. So, and I just
yeah,
didn't know. I didn't know what it was like, but man, it turns out that Seattle was like my second home. Like, my kids cried when after
right,
2004 or after 2003 when I
yeah,
wasn't able to come back. I was at the height of the most winningest times there, losing
yeah,
losing three Hall of Fame players in Griffey. Well, Randy Johnson first, then Griffey, then A-Rod. Man, like to lose that,
that's right, that's right, yeah.
it's so crazy, so crazy.
Oh yeah. So Lou Pinella, answer me this. There's some things I want to get to because about today's game compared to back when you played, especially on the hitting side, because you're very vocal on social media. I'm going to get to all that. But Lou Pinella, right? Go back now. How would Lou Pinella go managing teams today? You're around baseball. You're around Major
Oh,
League Baseball. How would that look?
it would be tough for a lot of guys, man. Lou was
Right.
a essentially a hitting coach, manager, everything. He was the data, he was the analytics, and he also was the guy who was your worst critic even while you're playing the game.
Yeah.
So, but he was very good at because he'd been around the game so long. He understood. He'd been around so many great players. He was a tenacious like hitter and played in some of the craziest times in New York City. But the
Yeah.
guy was very, very smart as a manager. Um,
Right.
he knew what buttons to push with different guys. But he was, for me, more than a physical presence. far as a hitting guy. He was such a very good mental aspect. And we would sit in the clubhouse after the game was over and be talking about different things. And like that was when I was able to absorb and learn so much more
Right.
with Lou at the time.
So he had that. So he had that part of him that he would sit with you and dive a little deeper, because what I'm saying is obviously, look, really smart. Everyone loved him. I mean, I used to, working on Root Sports. I remember they used to say like the whole post game was just him being interviewed because
Yeah,
that's all anyone wanted to see.
yeah.
Because it was A, it was entertaining, B, he was super smart. But he had that about him where he could sit in a clubhouse with you and dive deeper in regards to like that point where you can trust him, where you can sort of open up to him and talk about different parts of the game. He had that side to him too, right?
Definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
as tenacious as he was in the dugout, man, he was a field general. I mean, he was a little legitimate field general. He was boisterous.
Yeah.
He was very kosher when he said certain things. I mean, like I respected the hell out of him because as much as he got onto me, like he was very, very comforting also. I mean, there are
Right.
times though, man, you'd be like,
Really.
man, get out of my face, dude. But he was cool though. We were good. We were
All,
good.
all I heard from a pitching side is he hated pitchers. Like he just hated them. Like if you threw like there's I'm not going to name names here, but there's a couple of dudes who made their debuts, right? Like one of them was like couple scoreless innings, and then he walked, and then he goes 2-0 on someone, and you can hear him in the dugout yelling.
Yeah.
And then you walk someone, and then you just hears noise. He's like, "Oh man, that's right. I forgot. He hates when
Oh
pitchers walk
man, you
through."
just never know. You never knew what mood he was gonna be in, dude. Like, bro, like we were good, and he still was like wanting
Right.
so much more. Like we were so good. Like our team,
Yeah.
obviously, the first year, when we had A-Rod, that was kind of my connection to Lou because A-Rod was like Lou's son in a sense, like it's
Really.
yeah. So me and A-Rod got along very well, and A-Rod was a very big studier of the game, and hitting, and obviously he got a
Yeah.
lot of that from Edgar Martinez. But having A-Rod and Edgar, and having Lou kind of like uh, create this little miniature bonding moments in the clubhouse after he's had his couple of heaters and a couple of drinks, and he's still kind of like trying to
Yeah.
just trying to figure out the
Right.
next day. But he was so good at like explaining the game in a sense, and so I got a chance to see that side of him much more than the craziness that
Yeah.
we see in the dugout a lot of times because he was competitive, man. So he wanted to win so bad. And look, I could go on and on about Lou stories. Look, this man used to get mad. We lost 2 in a row, 3 in a row in spring training. And we're talking about guys in spring training. Lou, you don't even got your team out here, bro. These are kids. Like it didn't matter. It didn't matter, bro. Like it
Oh,
didn't matter,
dude.
right?
But is the game is the game today, is it missing some of that too? I mean, like I responded so well when I had managers. Like, I had Kirk Gibson when I was with the D-backs. He
Yeah.
was not, dude. I couldn't get a bunt down, and I'd come in the dugout and duck. He was so angry, like. And I'm like, dude, like, I don't know what I'm doing out there. I got, Tim Hudson just throwing turbo sinkers.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no chance I can bunt that,
Yeah.
and then spring training, dude, like the pitches, like, he'd walk over, and this is, I mean, he's coming off like a knee surgery, and like had like a shot, like back spinal fusion, like he's walking around, he barely walk, and he's hobbling over. And like we're doing PFPs, we're like, oh damn, here comes Kirk Gibson. Like we had to like sharpen up, get
Yeah.
the water bottles out of the back pocket. But it was good. I
Yeah.
loved
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, is the
Yeah.
game missing some of that?
Uh,
That some of that when it comes to that kind of that type of leadership. What do you
I,
think?
I think I would like to say that it is, but in this day and time, the sensitivity of so much, and we have this new thing with the mental health concept that
Right.
I don't think that would be allowed today because the anxiety that the guys have today, that we had it and we found a way to channel it. I don't think it'll be
Yeah.
allowed in that sense of what's transpiring, especially in the day of mental health, in the
Yeah.
mental health capacity in the league and stuff. What is taking place in today's game?
Yeah, it's amazing you said that, man. I have kids. I work with kids, and you've got a son who essentially grew up in a major league clubhouse, and I've got two kids, and so I understand how tough parenting is.
Yeah.
But like, I'll deal with like some teenagers, and they're like, oh, they say certain words, and not to dive down the mental health, rabbit hole here, but it's like, no, they're called nerves, and they're a good thing. Like,
Yeah.
embrace them, like
Yeah.
use them. It's amazing, man. And that's kind of, whether it's Lou Piniella being a bit of a hard ass in that regard, or
Yeah.
just that tough love, or the fact that he has that balance where he can just. It's just life or death on the field, but then you can have those conversations where you feel comfortable talking to someone in a clubhouse and opening up, or having those conversations about hitting. Again, man, and I'm sure there's some of that out there. Don't get me wrong, but we just get so caught up in
Yeah.
this way of thinking about stuff in regards to coaching. But hey, in regards to hitting, right?
Yes.
You're vocal on social, and I love it. I told you this before we came on. Like, sometimes if I see like a Mike Cameron, someone puts something out there, and you'll say something or have an opinion, I just sit back and get the popcorn out. I didn't even get into it, because I'm like, here's someone with this kind of a career jumping in, because you have got so many different hitting gurus and ways of doing things. What are some things, man? Like, and the obviously you have the career
Yeah.
to back it up. And I mean, you've been there, you've faced some of the toughest pitching on the planet. But on the flip side, you've also got a son. How old's your son now? 27, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He's 20. This is his 27. Yeah. He's year 27. So,
Right.
yeah.
So, yeah, so you have a son who's made it to the major leagues and had success. So, like, obviously you have been in, and plus you're coaching right now with the Mariners, right?
Yeah.
So, talk to me about the hitting side of things. There's a tweet. I want to ask you this. You put it. I'll get to this specific. There's so many tweets I wanted to post up here, but I'm going to get to this one. You wrote on this tweet. Let me just pull it up real quick. You wrote, "I'm glad Acuna still got that old school in his swing with his top hand hammer finish." Explain that one to me. What do you mean by that?
So in a day and age where so many guys are using some of the hockey finish, and almost is for some people who don't understand the hockey finish, where the top hand kind of goes up, kind of across up
Right.
past your face, and also it could also look like if you're trying to do like a little 7-iron knockdown where you finish like
Gotcha.
right out here, or whatever it may be. Acuna has that. And it's not just Acuna. I just happen to see his on that particular pitch,
Yeah.
where most guys, where they finish, where you got to use your top hand and you just got to come straight like across, and you
Right.
finish your hammer down across and behind you a little bit. In a time that a lot of guys don't do that anymore, because they're so their swings are so in a dynamic of trying to recreate this image of sweeping and getting the ball up in the air, opposed
Gotcha.
to just this hammer, man, coming across your face,
Right.
and finishing behind your left shoulder with your palm down. And,
Right.
Mookie Betts does this new thing. You see it when he's,
Yeah.
Julio has a very prolific finish of that, where you just kind of a flick up in the air sometimes. And I think,
Right.
look, I don't know what the data says or all these different things, in that nature,
Yeah.
but just me seeing, guys having just this good old fashioned swing at the ball, try to level out through the baseball and finish
Yeah.
your swing. Hank Aaron was very big with this. Obviously he is the hammer himself. You
Right.
be able to see some of these things. So it's just kind of got good to see that in a time. We're in a time where guys are doing so many different creative things, which I don't knock at all. I just like some of the things
Yeah.
that I like in general.
No, I love it, dude, because like you wrote that, and I was like, I want to be crystal clear with exactly the terminology you're using, because look, hitting's been interesting, and I mentioned that I mentioned the guru side of it, because there's just so much online and so much like kids, this information and the way they're trying to create the different bat path, getting away
Yeah.
from just that natural feel. Like, so Julio Rodriguez, right? Early on, there has been some struggles. Power numbers are down, everything else. But what's your relationship like with Julio Rodriguez in regards to coming from a voice and the kind of career you've had, you know, like talk to me about that.
It's unique. It would be never something that I would go like on a social media platform to say, something about Julio. Like when I get there, I'll talk. It's not like we, have conversations on the telephone all the time. He has his
Yeah.
people. Obviously, you don't want to step into the lines of, um, what
Yeah.
Jared does and a few of those guys in the clubhouse. But there are times I think that I'll go up to Julio and be like, first thing I ask him, man, like, how you feeling, man? Like, look, you don't got to
Right.
give me the in front of the media, the corporate thing or whatever, like, how you
Yep.
doing? Like how you doing
Yeah.
mentally, how you feeling? And then I'll say maybe something that I'm seeing from my perspective that, these guys maybe are seeing every night, but also are seeing on the computer when they look at, his, pull up his tapes or whatever. And I'll just say this,
Hmm.
like, I'll say, it's like, man, yeah, swing looks good, but he's still getting started a little bit too late.
Right.
A lot of times it create a lot of the things that he goes through with, especially with the way they pitch him continuously.
Yeah.
Sometimes he just swinging too hard. Like the
Right.
guy's really good at what he does, and we're looking for this every year. We're looking for this run that he's supposed to go on as
Yeah.
he's done the last couple of years. And in the game, sometimes it just doesn't happen, man. We know he's going to hit. You just don't know when. You want it to happen as soon as you want
Right.
it to happen, but for the most part, you're going to hit when you're at your most comfortable state, and you're not the pressure that you can say you're not putting pressure on yourself, but when you're supposed to be
Yeah.
good and people expect you to be good, you tend to put undue pressure on you regardless of how you feel.
Right. Do you feel like, I mean, you play with A-Rod, right? I know
Yeah.
Julio really looks up to A-Rod, and you play with him early on in his career. Do you feel like there's a similarity there with Julio trying to be that guy, like in regards to be, this iconic player, the being this face of baseball, face of
Yeah.
the Mariners? Do you see that with him, and do you see similarities with that with Alex Rodriguez as well?
Probably the number one thing about Julio is he's really genuine. And A-Rod was a little more
But
court.
I'm talking about being the guy, like
Oh,
putting
most
that pressure on
definitely.
to be the dude. Yeah.
No,
Okay.
most definitely, most
Right.
definitely. Like the one thing about what social media has done today is they've been tabbing guys to be these great players after they
Hmm.
seen 600 at bats. And
Right.
I
Right.
mean, obviously, in Julio's case, being a very young guy coming in and having the type of season that he had, they've tapped him to be just this great player. And obviously, Julio's kind of taking on the responsibility of that. And but he's only 23 years old. So I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah.
baseball to be learned in that space. I see people on social media comparing him and to Griffey and these different things.
Hmm.
All these guys are different in a sense of where they are in their stardom.
Yeah.
Julio is a great uh, baseball player for one, but he's a great person, and for Seattle to have a guy of his caliber, it's a blessing in itself to have someone in the
Big time.
Northwest to root for in that matter. But I will say, we, I always let him know, like, bro, you're good, but you still got a long ways to go. Like you've had some
Yeah.
really good years, and try to keep saddle him in that man. He's humble in a sense, but I try to be respectfully and humble also with him. Like, bro, I saw you when you was a scrubby little right fielder. Uh, where would it, West Virginia. So, but
Right.
it's good though. Good. We always in good facet, good humor. It's
But
been a lot of time
but
together.
he needs that voice though, right? That's what I'm saying. And this again, I'm not going back to the Lupinella part of
Yeah.
this, but look, you've got 5 kids. You've got a son who's played Major League Baseball, still playing professional baseball, and so just having that that voice for Julio, someone who has had the career you've had, man. It's just so important, I think. Like, because you mentioned it. Look, when I started, social media had just started, right?
Yeah.
But now this generation, they can just read anything about
Yes.
themselves or any little opinion from someone
Yes.
sitting in their basement. You know,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Definitely.
That
Definitely.
it's so different. So who? Okay. Speaking of that, I do want to transition real quick because there's so many things I want to get to here. But in 2004, you left the Mariners, right? You go to the Mets,
Hmm.
brand new team. You're in New York. Now, some of these guys, some of the Mariners are getting off to slow starts. Mitch Garver, Polanco, right? They've had Mitch is starting to come out of it. Polanco, it's like the profile of a player that we're expecting from him. He still hasn't gotten to that place just yet. What's it like, man? In 2004, you got off to a slow start
Yeah.
in New York.
Yeah.
What's that like, dude? Going to a new team, signing a deal, he's trying to impress. Talk to me about the pressures and what's that like getting off to that rough start, like you did in 2004 with the
Yeah,
Mets.
yeah. Look, it took me a while to recover in New York because not only I wasn't playing very well, but I was playing every day. We had Mike
Mhm.
Piazza hurt, we had Cliff Floyd hurt, kind of in and out of it. I ended up hurting my hand or something like that, but I kept playing. And
Right,
but with that being said, what I was going through, Rano, was a part of it was just like trying to impress, get off to a good start. Didn't happen, press some more, but continuing, the one good thing about me is like I understood that I've had some success in this game, and I do understand that if I continue to play, I'm going to find it somewhere. It took me
right.
till about July, literally before I felt like,
Really? Wow.
yeah, like I really felt like, okay, I got the hang of this. Um, I feel good about myself. Other than that, man, it was searching, and we wasn't a very good team either. So the difference between myself and Polanco is like not only is he new, he's got a lot of other new guys here too. Gerald
Yeah, right.
Gerald Williams, he's deceased now, but was very inspirational. He played for the Yankees for a lot of years, and he was there. He was my locker mate, man. So he kept me
Yeah,
sane, so to speak. He was my mental skills guy,
really.
but he also kept it fun for me. It's like, bro, like man, like you're a good player. You're good, bro. It's gonna happen for you. Uh, I was
Right.
getting I was getting booed. I was getting somebody from New York every other day coming up to me saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, Omar Minaya is this," and well, not Omar at the time. I had Jim, uh, uh, Jesus, God, I had
Who's this?
My
The
GM. Art Howe was our manager, which was very cool. I had very good people around me
tell you right
that
now.
were very supportive. I had Jim. Gosh, what is Jim's name? I'm gonna feel
I
bad if
can
he
look it up.
sees
Hang on.
this. Uh,
The Jim Duquette.
yeah, I had Jim Duquette as a general
Jim
manager.
Duquette.
So just being in New York, man, alone is a
Yeah.
challenge in itself. But I took on the
Oh yeah.
challenge. Had a lot of veterans around me. So they understood what was going on. I didn't want to let anyone down, so I wanted to go to post every day while I was trying to figure it out. And the good thing about for me is like it started to happen. Once I got more comfortable in New York, um, I felt good about where I was playing at. I had just left a big ballpark, so so it was good. And then at the time we had American and National League. You only play like a couple of
That's right. That's right.
cross cross league games or whatever. Now it's everyone. But in the sense of Polanco and them, I think that these guys are still trying to gain comfortability in a place where they're
Yeah.
not familiar with. Regardless, man, of how long you've been playing, there's an adjustment
Yeah.
period for every player wherever you go.
Right.
And the unfortunate part for Seattle is and Polanco and Garv and all these other guys they're in a good spot. They're in first place, or
Yeah.
either first at the top. Right now, they're in first, but right around the top of a very good division where these guys can kind of take shape and be major contributors. They can look at it from that factor once they get going and the players they become.
So if you were locker mates sitting next to Polanco right now, and he just gets no for four, right, and you know how good he can be, what would you say? What's the message here to him?
I for me, I'm always going to be positive in a positive spirit and just tell him, hey man,
Right.
keep going. Like we know we know you can play. We know you can hit. You've done this
Yeah.
a lot. But continue to try to get comfortable, man. We're gonna be right here. Keep
Right.
plugging, keep plugging.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to keep the
I'm
guys
sure. I'm sure.
engaged. You got to keep the guys engaged, man,
Yeah.
because there ain't no person. I say this a lot of times on Twitter also. There's no person that shows up to the big leagues and is trying to get off to a bad start ever. Everyone wants to do
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes the game takes a little time to take shape. Sometimes it's a little later than others. You would like for it to
Yeah.
be there. But I think the biggest thing is that there's like three or four guys that are
Yeah.
still trying to put it together with the ball club. And obviously, JP, uh, getting him
Yeah.
back will contribute a lot to the success of the ball club moving forward.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And this is a parenting question, Mike. I've actually asked you this in person, but I kind of did it like kind of quickly. But I have two kids, right?
Yeah.
You've got five. You mentioned the fact that before we got on. Now I do know because I'm going to hit you up for an Australian question here in a minute. So you have been to Australia, so you may get this too way too easy. This question I'm going to ask you, but look, your son, Daz Cameron, major leaguer. He spent his early teen, like from what like he's been in the major league clubhouse.
Yeah, since he
What
was like 2 or 3
pretty
years old, 3 years old basically.
yeah, right. So, but from a parenting standpoint, to help us out to our fellow parents, myself included, I got a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old. How do you get? And you mentioned your daughter too, the
Yeah.
track and field. Help me, dude. What do I do here in regards to my kids to raise them to not that they're going to be super athletes,
Yeah.
but just where they're doing something they love and they're happy and everything else, my man. Like to
Yeah.
raise kids like that. What's your secret? What's your secret sauce?
I look,
I'm in the midst of it right now.
for one thing, my kids were blessed with great talent in a sense. Me being a sports person growing up, playing outside everything and whatever it is, my kids doing the same thing. We just, for me, giving them, I only got one son that took after baseball. The guy walked around with a big bat,
Really?
a little wood bat with dress shoes on and pajamas like all the time. Wanted me somebody to throw to him. But all of my kids I test them, let them test out all sports, and just
Yeah.
find your niche, find you something that you can latch on to, and we'll work at it. We'll be good at it, and we'll get better at it. But just try to enjoy it. But obviously, my kids had some great skill sets athletically, which allowed them, to go to college, get drafted, whatever it may be. Now, this
Yeah.
last one I got, my daughter, she's 15.
Yeah.
She wants to play soccer, but she wants to travel. She wants to do everything else, and it's like, when you got time to work on your soccer skills. So she got a little
Yeah.
started a
Right.
little bit later on, but that's the one that gives me the most challenges at this particular time right now. So, but
So,
you know,
but tell us, say, hey, listen, you work hard enough on this soccer, man. You can play anywhere in the world. You can
yeah,
travel anywhere.
yeah, she got up, like I said, soccer kids start off when they're like 7 or 8. She didn't start till she was like
That's true. Yeah.
12 or something like
Yeah.
that. So, maybe I'll be a little bit behind in that sense. But, I told him, I said, look, the work that you got to put in, today in today's sports are quite different than the times that I did it. We did it just because
Yeah.
I didn't have any personal trainers, anything and nothing like that.
Oh, yeah.
It was just going and trying to figure it out along the way until
Yeah.
as I got older, obviously everything become um, an opportunity for a guy to be able to be successful or a young lady to be successful in
Yeah.
sports.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the fact too, just the multi sport thing, man. Like, just I see some 10-year-olds. I'm like, oh man, like just ease up a little bit. Like the travel ball, 12 months a
Ah,
year, it's wild, dude. That's
yeah,
crazy.
it's definitely that is definitely true. I feel like kids are playing too much baseball. That's number
Ah,
one.
for sure.
You know,
Yeah, for sure.
my son gave up his summers. starting at 14 years old, was playing at East Cobb baseball, and they were playing like 105,
It's
110
crazy.
games over the whole
Oh yeah,
course of the summer, which was
it's
wow.
crazy. Oh yeah. Now listen, before I let you go, there's so much I want to get to, but we do have to get to this. We have got now. I've put you on. I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. I did give you a bit of a heads up, and plus you have traveled to Australia, but
Yeah.
we do have a contest online. But you may get this one. So if you get it, I'm sorry, everyone on social media, you're not going to be able to win the prize. But okay, so we've got the How to Speak Australian contest with Mike Cameron is going to be the contestant today. He has been to Australia. All right. So he has been. Now, this is brought to you by the Kangaroo and Kiwi, the one and only Australian pub in Seattle. If you want to go have a beer with your mates, go to the Kangaroo and Kiwi. It's in Ballard. Mike, have you ever been to the Kangaroo and Kiwi
I
in your
haven't
life?
been there. I
We
haven't
need
been
to
to the,
take you there.
yeah, in Ballard. Definitely haven't been there.
Yeah, it's a great spot, man. It's a great spot, and I love it. Brad, who owns it, he's the man. Bunch of Aussies in there. A lot of us cool Australian stuff. All right, the How to Speak Australian. The word is sanger. Mike, what is a sanger? And I'll give you a sentence if you need some help.
Please give me a sentence.
Oh, okay. So I was waiting for you, dude. You've been to the Gold Coast. I was expecting you to go boom. All right. I'm pretty hungry. I'm gonna give this away here. I'm pretty hungry. I'm gonna have a Vegemite. I feel like a Vegemite singer.
Vegemite sandwich? Uh,
Sandwich. Boom. There we go. And you've won it. All right.
are you serious?
You've a sandwich, a sanger. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
No one ever said sanger to you on the Gold Coast
They
in Australia or what?
they probably did. They probably did. But like I said, it's been a while. It's been a while.
Yeah. A sanger, yeah, that's right. A sandwich. So like, it's still like I was growing up. It's like, oh, I'll just get a sanger for lunch. And even now, I'll go back to Australia. I was back there over Christmas, and just boom, the words come back. I'm like, oh man, everyone's still saying that. That wasn't a thing when I was a kid. So yeah, no, a sanger. So that was the How to Speak Australian segment, brought to you by the Kangaroo and Kiwi Aussie Pub. We are going to have a live watch party at the pub later on in the year, and I might have to fly Mike Cameron out. He knows the word sanger. But no, listen, Mike, this has been awesome, mate. I appreciate the time, and hopefully at some point you can come back. I know you got a busy schedule. You're
Yeah,
helping out the Mariners on the
yeah,
coaching side, and go sit next to Polanco. Next to his locker, he seems like such a good dude. You can see it written all over his face
yeah.
that he's feeling it, man. I want you to go sit with him and give him some of that Mike Cameron wisdom that you have.
Yeah, I try to tell all the guys like, hey man, I came here like just like no other. So, I do
Right.
understand. Look,
It's true.
look, the Seattle people have been so great to me. There was a little bit that I was a little questionable to them in the beginning, but I was able to, through my play baseball, able to just say, hey man, I could play this game, and they were been big supporters since day one. It was like my second home, and obviously, to be able to share some of these same sentiments with some other guys, going through some struggles here or there, in a new
Right.
situation, a new environment, and they know, these guys been around for a long time, and they're just kind of like just getting comfortable, man, just trying to get comfortable and to be a part of a good team. It helps when you're struggling and you're part of a good team. So, and also being right in the midst of a race, in a sense,
Right.
to try to
Hey,
accomplish something. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I do before I let you go, I do want to ask you 2001, right? Everyone tries to kind of not quantify but team chemistry and what are some of the things that you can't, you know, can't teach, you
Yeah.
can't analytically understand or quantify. What was different about 2001 with that team? You guys just won every night. It just seemed like everyone was just clicking. What was different with about that team?
Well, we got a few new guys. Obviously, one was losing A-Rod but gaining Ichiro. We
Right.
also got Brett Boone. Um,
Hmm.
and everything else was just kind of like there. We just had lost to the Yankees in the ALCS in 2000. Obviously, we
Yep.
knew A-Rod wasn't coming back. Um, and but getting Ichiro and having that mantra, that that aura that we had brought even more, attention to the ball
Right.
club. But we had some staples there. We had veterans, and with Edgar and Jay Bunis kind of going out. We had Mark McLemore, Stan
Yeah.
Javier. From a pitching standpoint, we had Jeff Nelson and Aaron no Seals wasn't, or Sealy there? I don't think so. Maybe he was, but
Yeah, Aaron
Jamie
Sealy was
Moyer,
there.
yeah, yeah.
2001. Jamie Moyer.
So we had
That.
a bunch of guys that, in loose sense, guys that understood like how to win, like they were winning ball
Right.
players. So and I know all of them wasn't like that, but most of the guys we had on our team had been in winning situations. I think that's
Yeah.
also
Right.
a thing, when you bring in winning players, they understand how to play winning baseball on a nightly basis.
Right.
We were just good. We were dominant. I'll contribute at least 40% of that to the great rookie in Ichiro Suzuki. Um, but we took off, man, and we never looked back. We just believed in each other every day. Everyone was holding each other accountable in a different manner than they hold each other accountable today, because it was more boisterous through that particular, those things than anything else.
Yeah.
And we had our manager was the field general, bro. Like he was
Right.
he was the field general. He had our backs at all given times, and we played very well. And Seattle was the biggest. I used to have the biggest block party at 7 o'clock in Seattle every night than any other place in baseball. It used to be
Oh
off
man,
the chain.
I was in Everett playing for the Aqua Sox in 2002. Playing, I remember going to a game on a Tuesday against the Detroit Tigers, who like lost 100 games.
Yeah,
You couldn't get a seat, man. It was like a Tuesday night. It was wild, and that was 2002. I couldn't imagine 2001. I do have to ask you this, sir. And by the way, I just had a quick glance at this. Do you know we've faced each other 3 times?
are you serious?
Yeah, I was just like, man, I don't know where it was. I need to look this up. Maybe someone on social can help me out. But you're 1 for 3, by the way. I don't know if it's.
Wow.
I didn't. I was glancing down. I was like, hold on a minute. I looked it up. I was like, oh, there it is. I was like, man, have we? Because I knew you were the Padres in
Yeah,
'07, my
yeah,
rookie year.
yeah.
I remember distinctly with the Red Sox. I remember. But I was like, man, have where'd I pitch against you?
It had to
I'm
be
trying to
when
remember
I
what
was in
team.
San Diego. It had to be.
Yeah, it must have been. Hey,
Yeah.
I do have to ask you this, though, and again, I'm keeping you too long here, but
No, you good.
when Ichiro was in spring training in 2001,
Uh-huh.
right, and Lou Piniella, he wasn't that great. Like everyone just sitting there going, man, this guy's not that good. Like, did you feel that way? Were you like, oh man, this
No,
guy's like,
I didn't.
no,
I
okay,
didn't feel like that personally. I felt like he was good, but I didn't know where he was gonna like. Didn't know he was like that great with like
yeah,
I got a chance to play against Tony Gwynn and Wade Boggs, and some of these
yeah,
guys that have these great bat to ball skills, and I knew he was fast. And so, look, those two things translate. I don't care what league you play in. You can play today,
yeah,
whatever it may be. Um, the guy was so disciplined
right,
in everything he did. Obviously, being my locker mate and a really good friend of him, and him being my right hand man in right field. I got a
right,
chance to understand Ichiro like no one else did. But we were very respectful to each other and respectful for his space and his time. The guy was
mm,
so disciplined. Lou used to hate that he would play Pepper between short and third all the time. Lou he loved guys that walk, and he loved guys that hit homers. So
right,
he used to get on Olerud because Olerud only hit, I say 14 to 21 homers on a given year all the
yeah,
time. But
right,
just the greatness of Ichiro, man. We got a chance to see the nostalgia of him, but
yeah,
the madness in spring training. I couldn't even understand the pressure that he was under, but he was so
yeah,
gifted, so
man,
disciplined, man. But his skill set were off the chain. We didn't know he was going to take off the way he did. We knew he was going to be, a 300 hitter, but we didn't know he was
yeah.
going to be 350. and his dynamic of what he was able to do on the baseball field every night, man. And he was
Yeah.
driven. He was driven, and we found out why he was so driven, because he's still the same person today. And the magic word, or the key word that we use for him all the time, is that it's called Kaizen, where it today, how well you did, or tomorrow, or yesterday, didn't matter. It mattered about today, and it mattered about getting better in that aspect. And
That's
sometimes when he
awesome.
does speak, he speak of these things, but he don't really speak very much. You got to get him to speak
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes now. And I do it
yeah, for sure.
all the time.
Yeah. No, I know you had that relationship. I remember I was just like, I was jokingly saying in 2008, I was joking with Ken Barron was his translator, and I said, "Hey man, I'm going to ask him out to Applebee's, like as if he's ever going to go to
No,
like an
he's not.
Applebee's." Like,
No, he's
and I
not.
was just joking around. He goes, "Oh no, hey, ask him out for dinner." I was like, "Are you kidding?" Like as if he's going to hang out with me. And I'm 25 years old, like just And sure enough, this is in Atlanta, by the way. Like, if it was in like New York or something like that, I'm not going to bug him,
Yeah.
And he likes the, and he comes up to me, and goes, "Hey, I'm heading out for dinner. Would you like to join us?" I'm like, "What?" It was, dude. Like, I swear, like you probably hung out with him obviously way more than I did. But
Yeah.
I was just like that one night. I was like, "Oh man, I never forget it," and it was just I was so lucky to sit there for a couple of hours, and he dived deep, man, in a bunch of stuff, and I'm like sitting there, I wanted to write notes. It was
Yeah.
amazing,
So
and
it's
yeah,
I'm sorry, Ro, but it's so intellectual. So well thought, before he says things. I got a
yeah,
chance to go with him and Kaz a lot of times. We also had Kazuhiro Sasaki on our
right,
team,
yeah,
but
he
they
was a
were
stud.
different. They were different type of stars. Ichiro was very private. We went into a lot of back doors of the greatest sushi places in the world.
I bet.
In some places, but he's like it's almost like he's like a Einstein of baseball. When he spoke,
Yeah,
like it seemed like he thought of these things and processed them for at least 3 or 4 years before he say anything.
right.
I always
Yeah,
while
that's a
we're in
good
spring
way of doing it.
training,
He's saying it.
I always have him. He doesn't like to talk very much, obviously, and so I always, he's in our with our outfield group, and I always try to get him to bring at least one nugget for a lot of the young guys in
Right,
spring training. I was like, okay, Ichiro,
right,
tell the guys, like, at this point at this point in your spring training, what are you looking to do?
yeah,
What are you looking to do
right.
for your body, your game? Um, and he would always share those different things, and like everybody else would be scared to ask him stuff, and I'll just like I'll be
That
get
was
all
me.
on, yeah, I get all over him all the time. Like yeah,
Right.
look, we had Ichiro doing some things that you normally wouldn't see done anywhere else within a
Yeah.
clubhouse.
I like it. Well,
uh,
Mike, this has been awesome, man. I would love it if you could come back on at some point as you get into
Anytime,
this season. But it was
anytime.
fun, and hopefully, are you up in Seattle at all coming up?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, it's about to be
Okay,
summertime, man. It's about to be summertime in
I know
Seattle.
that's right.
Definitely, definitely.
Well, yeah, we should do this in person, man. Have a dive in because I've still got a whole page of stuff I want to talk to you about. But anyway, we're running. I don't want to keep you too long, but yeah, this has been a blast, Mike. I really, really appreciate it, mate.
All right, Rado. All right, Mike.
Appreciate it. See you, buddy.
All right.